Welcome to Creating Abundance with Alana Cahoon, sharing inspirational stories from experts around the world. Tap into your inner wisdom at alanacahoon.com. Welcome to Creating Abundance for Radiant Health, Wealth, and Happiness. I'm Alana Cahoon. I'm going to have so much fun introducing our next guest. Will Schneider is a Stanford University-trained ambassador of compassion. He is the co-host of the popular Men Talking Mindfulness podcast and has over 15 years of teaching. Ready for this list? Yoga, breathwork, meditation, and cognitive fitness. Curious about that one.
Yeah.
Will is recognized as one of the best New York City yoga teachers in 2017. He lives in none other than New York City. Will is a lover of people, adventure, the great outdoors, reading, exploring the mind, and human optimization. He's going to share with us, amongst all the other things, what men are suffering the most with. So let's welcome Will Schneider. Hi.
Alana, good to see you. It's great to be on your show. Thank you. Thank you for
It's so good to see you. Yeah, I haven't seen you since the podcast conference in LA. When was that?
March, I think, right? Mid-March. Wow, it's a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so welcome. And I know you're in your New York City apartment. That's pretty fabulous.
Yeah, I like it here. It's good. Yeah, New York is a real happening place, and it definitely keeps me, developing more character and keeps me on my toes for sure. So that's one, I think, the love and the part of the love, but I got to get out of the city as often as I can to just, relax a little bit from this high energy kind of place.
Developing character. I'm just gonna remember that one because I spent 10 years in New York City myself. You develop a lot of character.
Yeah, exactly. You do. You need to if you're going to stay here.
Yeah. So it's really, I'm so curious about your story, but just to share a simpatico here, when I lived in New York City for those 10 years, my meditation practice deepened and my holistic studies deepened. And so I'm curious if part of living in this intensely fast-paced, always on city of New York, the bustle, the hustle, the bustle, do you find that that's one of the reasons that has driven you into your path as a conscious leader in holistic health?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely part of it. I mean, in order to really maintain, kind of like literally like a self-sovereign life here, I'm outside of the corporate, world. I've created my own business for the last, 15, actually 20 years since I've been here. As I started to, meditation found me first, and then yoga found me. And then as I started to deepen my own practice in order to just continually find more sanity in a place that can really make you insane, but also to stay calm, to stay relaxed. Like that was really what drew me to this work. But then as I went deeper into the work, and particularly deeper into practicing yoga, I was offered an opportunity to take a teacher training. And, there's a lot, it's like 12 weeks or something like that. It's a lot that goes into the training. But part of it is, observing classes. And when I started to observe the experience that people were having after like taking, a yoga class, particularly I remember this one moment, this might've been the first observation I did for class, is like usually most yoga classes end in a pose called shavasana, in which you're just, or corpse pose it's also called. So you're lying in corpse pose and it's the last like 3, 4, 5 minutes of class where you're just being still and just, receiving whatever kind of internal wisdom that is, might maybe come through the physical practice that you just endured. And I just like got emotional. And I was like, wow, it's so nice to see in this crazy city people really find peace, not the idea of peace, but actual peace within their mind and their heart and their body. And that really woke me up into like, I need to do more of this because I have my own experiences, with it, and I had those similar experiences as far as the peace, but then to be able to provide that for other people, and to really see them make a massive shift in their life if they keep showing up to the studio and keep, enduring the practice and learning the practice. It's really helped to shift the trajectory of my path, in order to be a stronger, servant leader especially in this kind of city. So it's awesome. Like, it's a real challenge to live here. But I think it becomes a lot less challenging when you have tools like meditation, yoga, breath practices, all the stuff that I teach. It softens the environment here. Really just softens the environment on the inside. So you're able to not be so reactive in a city that really tries to get the best of every day.
I love the word soften, because it's very easy to get hard in
Yeah.
New York, because it's exciting, but it's intense.
Yeah.
And and I also wanted to mention Shavasana for those of you who don't practice yoga, who are listening or watching. That's at the end of your asana practice. So you're usually moving through a lot of poses, and at the end you get to lie down in this Shavasana or corpse pose. And it's kind of like if you ask a kid what is your favorite class, and they'll say lunch.
Yeah, right.
This is like the favorite part. It's the end, so you can relax in what you witnessed in your observation of classes, is that these, can be wound up New Yorkers really relaxing,
Yeah.
unwinding, and finding, accessing that inner wisdom and peace within. So that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So where do you teach?
I used to teach a lot pre-pandemic, like at usually just one or two studios, like maybe 8 or 10 actual studio classes a week. And, I have several still like private clients that I see, in whether it's online now or brick and mortar. But I'm teaching at a studio here in the East Village called St. Mark's Yoga. So it's on St. Mark's Place, which is
Sure.
street here in New York. And I only teach 2 days a week. Like, I teach Monday at 6 o'clock and then Friday at 12. I've taught, I don't know, 10,000. I put my 10,000 hours in teaching yoga for sure.
Yeah.
For like a good, 10 years. 10 years before the pandemic, in the studio. And now I've only, I just teach a couple classes a week. I mean, to just serve the community, as well as like it helps to, it just wakes my soul up and my heart up in such a beautiful way, just to actually be physically in a studio, instead of just virtually connecting.
Yeah.
So it's fun. I
That's
really enjoy it.
wonderful. And St. Mark's Place is a pretty cool, funky place.
Oh, that's
Kind
sweet.
of
Yeah.
borders the East Village and the West Village.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fun. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Mhm.
So then you teach meditation and mindfulness, and you have private clients, you have groups. Tell
Mhm.
us a bit more about your journey and where did you come from? Where did you grow up? Are you a New Yorker, or, and
Yeah.
how did you become this love-based teacher of meditation, yoga, etc.?
Yeah, compassion. All. I think it's. Well, I started. I think a lot of the love that I try to spread out there comes from so much love that I have from this large family I have back in Pennsylvania. We actually just in July we had our 78th annual Schneider reunion, where we get usually between like 80 to 100 and some Schneiders to show up second Saturday in July every single year, 78 straight years. It's something my grandfather found. My dad ran it for years, and now me and my brothers and some other cousins are running it as we kind of step into, the leadership role in the family. I came from like humble beginnings. Like, my dad is a teacher. My mom worked at Penn State University. It was just great to be around so much family, mostly boys and into men, that's just how our family was. It was like probably 2/3 men. So I had a lot of masculine energy, a lot of competitive nature energy around me as well. Um, and I got to a point, coming from such a large family, uh, and coming, from, I guess, the greatest generation into the baby boomers, which are my parents, right, into I'm Gen X. You just we would just carry the torch forward of this is how you live life. This is the path you're on, and this whole like their story of how I should live, is I didn't know any better, so I checked all the boxes. I loved being a student, but wasn't a great student. I loved learning, but like I just wouldn't perform well on tests and shit. You know what I mean? But like I love learning. So I went to school, then went to college, and got a job at a pharmaceutical company. The corporate life wasn't making a lot of sense to me to spend like 40, 50 hours a week doing something that I wasn't passionate about, but really didn't know anything else because I was just what everyone else was doing in my family, what all of my friends were doing around me. But then I fell in love. I had my heart broken after that relationship, and it literally shattered my worldview at the time. And I was just devastated, like completely devastated for like 6, 8 months, a year, like just devastated, like had no idea who I was. But what helped me to put those pieces back together in the way that who I am was a great book by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way. And it's actually, it's a 12-week program, 12 different weeks. Every chapter is a different week, or every, week is a different chapter. And I did the work, and I did all the journaling every day. I did the other things that were required in the book. I answered all the questions, and I started to put myself back together in a way that made sense to who I am and the things that I wanted to do. Not even really knowing what I wanted to do, but she really encourages you in this book to, access your creativity and begin to live a creative life. And because at our core, all of us are deeply creative. I mean, we wouldn't, if that wasn't the case of the human being, we wouldn't have what we have here. We wouldn't be curious. We wouldn't, be trying to create things that improve our lives, or at least make our lives easier or make our lives happier. So I took it upon myself to step on the path of creativity, and I was an athlete growing up. I was able to excel in basketball. Went on to college to play basketball. So it was always just like, which is part of the story of like, hey, this is who I should be, brought to me by my my parents and generations before me. And through this heartbreak and through this working like diligently with The Artist's Way, I was like, you know what? I'm going to move to New York, and I'm going to express myself creatively as an actor. And I was like, I'm fucking going for it. I was living in Philadelphia at the time, started training there. And then as soon as she tells you in the book, man, and anyone that's listening, it's like, it's amazing when you take that first sure foot on your path. Like, this is who I am. I'm going in this direction. The world starts to really meet you. The synchronicity they talk about, things really start to happen for you. And that's what happened to me. And one thing led to the next. I get a phone call. There's an apartment that my family has in New York that's available. I move up here, paying super low rent, put some money away, so I can have a little bit of a rainy day fun when things might get difficult here in New York. And I worked as an actor, worked my ass off to audition, to get an agent, to get on TV, to be on different theater productions, and it was working. I was making money. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of hustle, a lot of rejection, a lot of character development. And part of that, like why I found meditation, is to calm down, to be more present on stage. I use it as a tool, but then I was like, oh wow, like this is like a whole nother thing as well. Like there's a whole nother Will Schneider that's showing up. And here I am. It just kept leading me forward. I left the acting world, and I really had trouble getting work after, the economic bust in 2008-9. Slugged it out for a couple more years. just could not get any more work. And I was like, I wanted to build something that's more sustainable, that I had more control over instead of somebody else's opinion of me. So I really made a hard pivot in 2011 into the work that I'm doing now, through starting with yoga. And then yoga just started to, as I just kept expressing myself passionately, also serving mankind at the same time, there's just more need that showed up, more need within me, to be a better teacher, be a better leader. And I just kept following those little breadcrumbs. And, you look back now, it's like it all worked together perfectly so we can have this conversation, to where I'm like having a podcast now that's, we have a growing audience of men and that are listening and really starting to change their lives. And it's just been awesome to be able to live this way and then sustain myself this way, and then really starting to generate, just really have a profound impact in the world. It's awesome.
That's you just shared so much. I'm just like, okay, where do I even
Sorry,
begin?
I know
So
I could go off.
I'm just gonna go right back to the beginning with this big family that you have, these
Yeah,
annual events. That's
yeah,
so beautiful.
yeah. It has
I
been. It's
come from a
special.
big, yeah, I come from a large family, and we had that Christmas Eve, every Christmas Eve for, you know, until, gosh, it was only until maybe the past 10 years or 8 years that everyone moved. And
Yeah,
so it kind of came to a halt. But we'd have up to 100 people, and it was just fun. So
yeah,
much fun and so much love and so much, that connection, that feeling of belonging.
yeah,
And so that I really understand that sense of love that comes from family.
yeah. The
So
abundance
how
of love. You
wonderful.
know what I mean? That abundance of love. You know what I mean? You're really.
Yeah.
I think it's like, one thing I'll say about that with family. It's really helped me to have more courage to stay on this path. There's something about having love that's like the abundance of love from my family that I can just call anybody and be like, hey, struggling here, or like, hey, can you help me with this? Or hey, whatever it is, or just to connect in a meaningful and loving way. I
Hmm.
mean, it creates I'm just more stable, if you will,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a blessing. It's a true
Yeah, for
blessing.
sure.
And then let's see. So then my question is, well, you moved into the corporate world and
Mm,
it wasn't a passion. So many of us are right. So that's the job. The job, everyone else is doing it. So sure, I'm going to do it. And you fall in love. But it was the breakup. It was the sad crises in your life that shifted and opened doors to this incredible opportunity, number of opportunities.
hmm
So, did that happen when you were in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, when I was living in Philly, I was 27 at the time,
Yeah.
the year 2000, the year 2000. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like I was swept up. I think why I was swept up so deeply in this relationship because of the lack of who I was. I didn't know who I was at
Mm.
all. So I just threw myself into this relationship because the feelings I had for this woman and the things we were able to experience in this relationship together just really helped me to, escape. I guess I didn't even have the question in my head of like, who are you? What are you doing? I didn't even have that question yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to do with your life? I was just, my whole idea of living was just like, oh, just, have a family, make more money, have a house, and just serve my family.
Hmm.
And that all changed when my heart opened, like in a way that I've never experienced life before, but then was just crushed. And
Yeah.
it's like, but it was necessary. Like I haven't talked to that woman since, but I would thank her today for, for what that did for me and to me and where I am today.
Yeah. It set you on your path of creativity.
Yep.
From what I just heard your story,
hmm
correct me if I'm wrong. And you moved to New York and you became a successful actor. That's
Yeah.
no small
Yeah.
accomplishment. That's
Yeah.
like you said, hard work,
Yeah.
pounding the pavement.
Oh. Yes, getting rejected.
Yeah, dealing with rejection in
Yeah,
life, building character.
building character, right? Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. And then dealing with it. I remember that 2008. Oh, I remember it very well. Uh, uh, and then here we have another crisis that is a door opening, right? It's like you could fall into the hole of the crises,
Yeah,
or you can step out of it and say, okay, where's the opportunity?
yeah,
What's next? And opening your heart and your, that accessing your inner wisdom to show you these tools that you had already started to explore: yoga, meditation, mindfulness, compassion,
hmm,
that you've mastered them. You've become a master and you're now teaching and coaching others to implement them into their lives for a
hmm,
more peaceful, joyful, purposeful life.
hmm,
Is
yeah.
that accurate to say?
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, that's exactly what I'm here for, what I do, what I show up every morning, what I continually create, are those things for other people. I mean, I have, mastery is like, I mean, I'll give myself credit for definitely mastering a yoga studio class. Like, I mean, it's wild what goes on there now. I've taught so many, but I'm still like, I'm always learning. Like, I really, I position myself as a teacher and a student, like almost equally, because one informs the other. The more I study, the more I practice, right, the stronger I can, be a teacher for people. So I'm still definitely a work in progress, but I've worked enough and done my own work that I can really help people maybe not go so deep into some of the pitfalls that I fell into. But I think you
Yeah.
need to. You need to drop into your own, you need to, I mean, you need to have results that are challenging for you in order to see and move forward effectively. I mean, I don't like the word failure. I think it's failure is just the opposite side of success, and it's a real failure if you don't learn how to become more successful from that failure. So, I
Yeah.
mean,
It's a
yeah,
lesson.
it's definitely a lesson.
Hmm.
And I think when you and that's like a part of my philosophy is like, we just live in the classroom of life every day. And it's like, what are you learning? What are you learning? What are you learning? What are you learning? And how are you using that education and those experiences you have in order to create a more meaningful, happy, joyful, more abundant life? That's how it rolls.
Beautiful.
Hmm.
We live in a classroom of our life, always
Yeah,
learning.
always learning.
Absolutely.
Always learn. I saw Stephen one day. I saw Stephen A. the other day. Stephen A. Smith. He's like an old time sports broadcaster. He's actually branching out and doing more like social commentary, which I really enjoy. I heard him speak the other day. He's like, I win all the time. And I was like, this arrogant guy, right? He's not. I win all the time because either I'm winning the argument or I'm learning something. And I was like, bang, like that
Okay.
really, that really made a difference for me. So.
Okay. Uh, so Will and I met at a podcast conference in LA, and we're going to see each other next week. And I didn't even know that until this morning, just before the call,
Yeah,
because we're both going to another podcast in
DC.
DC.
Mhm.
So that's really cool. So tell us more about your podcast. And I've listened to a few episodes, and I keep sending them over to my son. Tell the listeners, the viewers, about your podcast.
So, Men Talking Mindfulness, I co host with a great, great, great man who's become one of my best friends, who's also a retired Navy SEAL and a veteran,
Thank you
John
for listening
McCaskill.
to Creating Abundance.
We,
Be sure to
come from very
like
different
and
backgrounds.
subscribe.
We have very
Stay
different
tuned for the next
lives,
podcast and get your
but
free
we
ebook
rally
at
around
alanakahoon.com/ebook.
mindfulness and all the different practices of mindfulness. And really, what mindfulness is what we continually try to explain. Different practices we talk about, because mindfulness and practicing has really had a profound effect on each of our lives in different ways. John, his how he was brought to mindfulness because he was part of a mission, a Navy SEAL mission that he was a commander of that went south bad, lost over a dozen Navy SEALs. He was on the outside of the operation, kind of looking in and organizing and orchestrating like what needs to happen on the back end. And he saw like 12 of his brothers die or more, and left him with a deep, deep, deep sense of survivor's guilt, and mindfulness and meditation helped him out. And I talked about kind of my journey to mindfulness, through just trying to get calm and be clear and just live in this city. So that's why. So we've been producing the show for almost 5 years now. We have 183 episodes, full episodes. We also have meditations and stuff on our podcast, so you can meditate and just let meditation help you. And it's been really great. Like, we didn't know that. I mean, I when we started the podcast, I knew that I wanted this to be focused on men as much as we can. And this is for everybody. Anybody can gain gain some sort of new perspective or some little piece of knowledge that you maybe can exercise to help change your life. Anybody can. But like, it's called Men Talking Mindfulness because it's literally just two dudes rapping about mindfulness. Right. And I guess because men is the first word in the title, when I talk about the podcast to groups of people, they're like, oh, is this just for men? I'm like, no, it's for everybody. But we definitely turn our conversations to masculinity and men and how we can be better men in this world. And all different types of topics from, health, like physical health, emotional stability, to manifesting. We just had a great New York Times bestseller on Dr. James Doty, who's the founder of the Compassion course that I went through at Stanford. We've had Stephen Kotler on, who wrote some great books, and it's awesome to have this platform that we can really make an impact for men in this world. And we're learning a lot about men as we go through this, as we learn a lot about ourselves, as we just don't talk, right? We actually practice everything that we bring into the show. We're practicing in some way. It's been just an incredible journey. I mean, it's just been so much fun, especially developing this relationship with John, and then seeing how, the more authentic we are as podcasters, as human beings, the more that we share, the more vulnerable we are. It just really, more people tune in, more people listen, more people comment, more people are willing to try. And they're really starting to see a difference in their lives. It's awesome. We get like messages and emails, DMs, social media messages from people saying like, wow, because of this little piece of information that you provided through your podcast, I had this conversation that I needed to have with my spouse or my son, and it's really changed our relationship. I'm like, wow. So it's pretty awesome to hear the impact that we're having.
That's beautiful. So you're seeing the results, and I've listened to some of your podcasts, and I can tell the audience who are listening now that it is both informative and inspirational.
Yeah.
And I've interviewed John, your buddy, your partner. So I think that's episode 18. If anybody wants to hear that story, that's a little bit earlier. And I have two questions for you, Will. One is, what is mindfulness? What is it to you? And then the second is, what is the greatest concern most men are facing right now?
So what's mindfulness? Mindfulness, in a broad term, you can think of, because people get really confused about like, what's mindfulness? What is this stuff? And it's just really, mindfulness you can just think of as awareness, right? And the practice of mindfulness help you to become more aware. And what do you become more aware of? Like, you become more aware of your habits, of your mental patterns, of your relationships. You're becoming more aware of your health. So it's just like anything that you can think of, maybe mindfulness as a flashlight, and then you can really begin to examine something objectively, right? And that's part of it here. It's like objectively looking at something non-judgmentally, not criticizing, not judging, just like observing what's going on in real time, not throwing any kind of layers of your mind or past experience on top, but really objectively being aware of what is going on in the moment. And to create this awareness and to create this objectivity really helps open you up and releases you from the way you've always done things, and then gives you an opportunity to maybe make a change. And that's where the practices come in. And these practices are just a way of developing greater self-mastery. And I mean, if you're not mastering yourself and working to master yourself every day a little bit more, and what are you mastering? It's just like, I really want to be calm. I really want to be, for me, I want to become more patient. I want to be happier. I want to continually, be more connected to things that really matter to me. I want to continually express myself creatively. And if you're not working on your own mastery, then somebody else is trying to master you, and you're letting them do that.
Ooh.
I mean, right. It's huge. I know, right? Well, think about your social media interactions, right? How you're easily reactive and outraged by what you're reading and seeing on social media or in the news all the time. You're being manipulated, right? Instead of really seeing, like, maybe taking a step back, it's like, well, what's really are they trying to do here? Like, what's really the objective here? What are they trying to do? And you'll see if you dig a little, not even have to dig that deep. It's just like money. Most often is what they're trying to do, or power over you or something like that. So I still could be very reactive, right? When I'm not, in a state of calm and in like, and just slowing down the pace of my life. So that's kind of mindfulness in a nutshell. But then it's like, what about your health? What about your hydration? What about your relationships? Like, what does it mean to be and experience vulnerability, authenticity? What is the experience of abundance? We've had a couple episodes on abundance, because it's like, it's all mindset and mind shift. And again, if you're not in control, then someone else is trying to take control, or already is in control. I don't know. I don't like, I think we need, when we connect also mindfully to ourselves, we connect to a deep source of love, abundance, calm, creativity, confidence, courage, and compassion that's deep on the inside of ourselves. And it's in our DNA, in every single one of us. And it naturally begins to bond us through this like common humanity experience. And it just, there's so much power in that. And to really feel, access, and live in that power is just like, it just makes the day a hell of a lot easier. Easier.
Yeah. Objectivity. I love that. Yeah. Mindfulness is being aware, and, just removing any judgment.
Yeah.
And just, that's so beautifully said. So thank you for sharing your thoughts on that, your wisdom on that.
Yeah.
And yeah, the abundance, it's not just about prosperity. It's about the inner wealth of peace and the love. The wealth of love can alter everything else in your life.
Yeah.
Can actually help you increase your prosperity, because when you're coming from a place of love, your mindset is in a positive space already.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So share with us, so your podcast name is Men Talking Mindfulness, and share what you've discovered through your hundreds of, or many, many interviews. What is one of the top concerns that men are facing today?
Well, I'll tell you, just based on our stats, like we have, we've been out there for a while. We have all these different episodes. We make sure that each episode, has a focus and has a certain title, and people respond to them. And our highest ranking episodes are purpose, right? Like, people are really lacking purpose. People want to understand pain. And the other one is people really want to men in particular, want to be more emotionally stable. And so this is how people are responding to our podcast. And we have other great, we have wonderful episodes about all different sorts of things, and, compassion. We have like 3 episodes on, and, we have lots of different health and success, and, kind of hacks for, like, being more successful in your life and stuff like that. So, and they all do very well. but like at the deeper core of what our audience is resonating with is passion, purpose, pain, and emotional stability. And that's one thing that we're hearing a lot more from men is just they're not even understanding the unbelievable spectrum of emotions that they have on the inside.
Yeah.
Like one thing that I went through when I went through the Stanford course on compassion is the whole idea of name it to tame it. And most men can't even name the emotions that they're experiencing. And when they can't name it, then they can't tame it. So therefore, what happens? They're controlled by it, right? And then they're hijacked, and then they're, running off in rage or anger or frustration or overwhelm or whatever, their typical experience is. They have no control over, and they're just running rampant. And it's so we're understanding like men really have a deep need to have a better control of their emotions.
Yeah.
So we always are gearing, whether it's courses or whether it's content, in order to help serve that need. One thing we're also seeing, and what really traps men, is, and this is where we also kind of fight a little against about the toxic masculinity, and John says it more often than I do. Because I don't like the term, but it's out there, and I think it's important to address. And I'm kind of glad it's out there because it actually brings more people to our podcast. Because toxic man really refers to what we've seen in the show is a man that is just ignorant to and to this emotional life, that this spectrum that we're kind of talking about. So they're low on the emotional literacy level. They actually lack a lot of empathy because it's very self-centered as well. And what really drives the behaviors that drive a lot of this toxic masculinity and gives man a bad name and brings up all the patriarchy kind of shit that people talk about is being the provider, protector, and conqueror. And these three
Provider,
roles,
protector, and conqueror.
right. These three roles, right?
Yeah.
That men have been rewarded for, right? They're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, get out there, do that. And it's also part of our masculine nature, right? We're linear in our way of expressing ourselves. We want to get to we want a goal. We want to hike that mountain. We want to achieve this, do that, accomplish, win the fight, whatever it is. That's very masculine. Brought to us a lot by testosterone, which I love having that side of myself. I really do. But when we only exercise ourselves in that way, we're only really attuning to a few emotional expressions. And a big one is anger. Because we need to, with anger, just kind of pushes everything away. It doesn't serve anybody. It's very selfish. Actually in my course with Stanford, this is the one thing I read. I was like, hey, we just geared around anger because it's so identifiable in men and everybody, but men in particular. And anger is wrongly perceived as manly. It's a dangerous emotion. It's toxic to you and others. Anger is actually suffering. Often is justified for violence and aggression. Frequently me-oriented, selfish, judgmental. Sickens the mind, alienates others. There's so many different things that anger do for us. Or that it just gets in the way of new possibilities and other results. So we're helping men to, and we actually have courses now. We have meditation courses for anybody can take to really understand the practice of meditation, but get on the inside and really get that flashlight going of a mindfulness and be like, oh, hey, what is that? As people try to just sit still and breathe and get calm, they'll be like, why am I trying? Well, I'm a perfectionist. Or it's like, why am I leveling the expectations right now? So when men start to really have the willingness to change, they can change radically and rapidly. And it's amazing to see. It's amazing to see. Don't give up on men, anybody out there listening. Men are great, great, great people. We just haven't really been activated in our entirety that brings forth our masculine greatness, if you will.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so much wisdom there. I know that I'm going to tune into your podcast because I learned so much about men. I'm like,
Yeah. Thanks.
oh, that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's really great for everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations to both you and John for doing this, for being brave and to exposing your own self, your own stories and your own pain to help transform others. Yeah.
Hmm.
So we're going to close now.
Yeah.
Uh, Share how people can reach you, find you.
Yeah, sure. Well, let me just tell you about we have 2 meditation courses coming up. So if you want to
Sure.
learn, and this is for everybody, learn the practice of meditation, but also what really makes meditation work is developing the consistency of meditation. That's when it really works, not just once a day or once a week, but every day. Um, and just really, it's a beautiful course. We had our pilot program in the spring. The results were incredibly profound for the students that came through it, and they're still meditating to this day. So if you want to practice meditation, hit up mentalkingmindfulness.com. You can also find me on any social, well, definitely on Instagram and Facebook at Men Talking Mindfulness. Me personally, Will Schneider. My social handle and website is Will Not Fear, WILLNOTFEAR, and that's on like X, Instagram, Facebook. Like I have willnotfear.com, and you can send me an email at if you have any questions about the course or any way that I can help you. But I also coach people in a lot of accountability paradigms, which I really enjoy. You can just send a message to Will at mentalkingmindfulness.com. But
Will at mentalkingmindfulness.com.
yeah, that's me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fabulous. It's been a joy and an honor to have you. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, same.
And to all of our listeners, this is Creating Abundance for Radiant Health,
Mm.
Wealth, and Happiness. And we wish you an abundant day. Take some of these practices and ideas and inspirations that Will has just shared with us today and try them out. And definitely come back, tune into Creating Abundance, and tune into Men Talking Mindfulness. Until the next time, namaste.
Thank you, Alana.
Thank you for listening to Creating Abundance. Be sure to like and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next podcast and get your free ebook at alanacahoon.com/ebook.